I'm going live. Okay, I'm on. I just forgot my phone. Just in case this doesn't record, right? Okay. So today, I'll be reading in Leviticus. Okay. Yeah. So today I'll be recording in Leviticus, and so it'll be Leviticus chapter 13 through 16. And my hair, I just watched it. But yeah, that's what I'm doing today. And so let's get started. Skin disease. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. When a person has swelling, scab, or spot on the skin of his body, and may be a serious disease on the skin of his body, he is to be brought to the priest Aaron or to one of his sons. The priest will examine the sore on the skin of the body. If the hair of the sore has turned white and the sore appears to be deeper than the skin of the body, it in fact has a serious skin disease. After the priest examines him, he must pronounce him unclean. Though the spot on the skin of his body is white, it does not appear to be deeper than the skin, and the hair is not turned white, and the priest will quarantine the stricken person for 7 days. The priest will then re-examine him on the seventh day. If he sees that the sore remains unchanged and is not spread on the skin, the priest will quarantine him for another 7 days. The priest will examine him again on the seventh day. If the sore is faded and is not spread on the skin, the priest is to pronounce him clean. It is a scab. The person is to wash his clothes and will become clean. But the scab spreads further on the skin after he has presented himself to the priest for his cleansing. He is to present himself again to the priest. The priest will examine him, and the scab is spread on the skin. Then the priest must pronounce him unclean. He has a serious skin disease. In case a serious skin disease may have developed on a person, he is to be brought to the priest. The priest will examine him. If there is white swelling on the skin, has turned the hair white, and there is a patch of raw flesh and swelling, it is a chronic serious disease on the skin of his body, and the priest must pronounce him unclean. He need not quarantine him, for he is unclean. But if the skin disease breaks out all over the skin so that it covers the skin of the stricken person from his head to his feet, as far as the priest can see, the priest will look, and the skin disease covered the entire body. He is pronounced the stricken person clean. Since he is totally turned white, he is clean. But whatever raw flesh appears, let him be unclean. When the priest examines the raw flesh, he must pronounce him unclean. Raw flesh is unclean. This is a serious skin disease. When the raw flesh changes and turns white, he is to go to the priest. The priest will examine him, and if the sore has turned white, the priest must pronounce the stricken person clean. He is clean. When boils appear on the skin of someone and it heals, and a white swelling or reddish white spot develops where the boil was, the person presents himself to the priest. The priest will make an examination, and the spot seems to be beneath the skin, and the hair has turned white. The priest must pronounce him unclean, in case of serious skin disease that's broken out in the boil. But when the priest examines it, if there is no white hair in it, and it is not beneath the skin, but is faded, the priest will quarantine him for 7 days. If it spreads further on the skin, the priest must pronounce him unclean. It is in fact a disease. But the spot remains where it is and does not spread. It is only the scar from the boil. The priest is pronounced unclean. When there is a burn on the skin of one of the body produced by fire, and the patch made raw by the burn becomes reddish white or white, the priest is to examine it. If the hair on the spot has turned white and the spot appears to be deeper in the skin, it's a serious skin disease that has broken out on the burn. The priest must pronounce him unclean. It is a serious skin disease. But when the priest examines it, if there is no white hair in the spot and it is not beneath the skin but is faded, the priest will quarantine him 7 days. The priest will re-examine him on the seventh day. If it has spread further on the skin, the priest must pronounce him unclean. It is in fact a case of serious skin disease. But its spot has remained where it was and has not spread on the skin but is faded and is flowing from the burn, the priest is pronounced him clean, for it is only a scar from the burn. When a man or woman has a condition on the head or chin, the priest is to examine the condition. If it appears to be deeper than the skin, the hair is yellow and sparse, the priest must pronounce the person unclean. It is a scaly outbreak, a serious skin disease of the head or chin. When the priest examines the scaly condition, it does not appear to be deeper than the skin, There is no black hair in it. The priest will quarantine the person with scaly condition for 7 days. The priest will re-examine the condition on the seventh day. If the scaly outbreak is not spread, and there is no yellow hair in it, and does not appear to be deeper in the skin, the person is to shave himself, but not shave the scaly area. Then the priest will quarantine the person who has a scaly outbreak for another 7 days. The priest will examine the scaly outbreak on the seventh day. If it is not spread on the skin and does not appear to be deep in the skin, the priest is to pronounce the person clean. He is to wash his clothes and he will be clean. But the scaly outbreak spreads further on the skin after his cleansing. The priest is to examine the person. If the scaly outbreak has spread on the skin, the priest does not need to look for yellow hair. The person is unclean. But as far as he can see, the scaly outbreak remains unchanged and the black hair has grown in it. Then he is healed. He is clean. The priest is pronounced the person clean. When a man or woman has white spots on the skin of the body, the priest is to make an examination. If the spots on the skin of the body are dual white, it is only a rash that has broken out on the skin. The person is clean. If a man loses hair on his head, he is bald, but he is clean. Or if he loses the hair on his hairline, he is bald on his forehead, but he is clean. If there's a reddish-white condition on the bald head or forehead, it is serious skin disease breaking out on his head or forehead. The priest is to examine him, and if the swelling indicates his bald head or forehead is reddish-white, like the appearance of serious skin disease on his body, the man is afflicted with a serious skin disease. He is unclean. The priest must pronounce him unclean. The infection on his head. The person who has a case of serious skin disease is to have his clothes torn and his hair hanging loose, and he must cover his mouth and cry out, "Unclean, unclean." He remains unclean as long as he has the disease. He is unclean. He must live alone in a place outside the camp. Contaminated fabrics. The fabric contaminated with mildew or wool or linen fabric, in the warp or weft of linen or wool, or in the leather of anything made of leather, and the combination is green or red in the fabric, the leather, the warmth, and the weft, or any leather article. It is the mildew contamination and is being shown to the priest. The priest is to examine the contamination and quarantine the contaminated fabric for 7 days. The priest is to re-examine the contamination on the seventh day. If it has spread into the fabric, the warp, the weft, or the leather, regardless of how it is used, the contamination is harmful mildew. It is unclean. He is to burn the fabric, the warp, or left wool or linen, or any leather article which is contaminated. Since it is harmful mildew, it must be burned. When the priest examines it, if the contamination is not spread in the fabric, the warp or weft, or any leather article, the priest is to order whatever is contaminated to be washed and quarantined for another 7 days. After it has been washed, the priest is to re-examine the contamination. If the appearance of the contaminated article has not changed, it is unclean. Even though the contamination has not spread, you must burn the fabric. It is a fungus on the front or back of the fabric. If the priest examines it and the contamination has faded after it has been washed, he is to cut the contaminated section out of the fabric, the leather, or the warp or left. But if it reappears on the fabric, the warp or left, or any other article, it is broken out again. You must burn whatever is contaminated. But if the contamination disappears from the fabric or warp or left, or any leather article which has been washed, it is to be washed again, and then it will be clean. This is the law concerning mildew, contamination, or wool and linen fabric, warp or weft, or any leather article, in order to pronounce it clean or unclean. Cleansing of skin disease. The Lord spoke to Moses. This is a law concerning the person afflicted with a skin disease on the day of his cleaning. He is to be brought to the priest, who will go outside the camp and examine him. The skin disease has disappeared from the afflicted person. The priest will order that the afflicted person, the priest will order that the two live clean birds, cedarwood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop, he will be brought for the one who is cleansed. Then the priest will order that one of the birds will be slaughtered over the flesh and water in a clay pot. He is to take the live bird together with the cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop, and dip them into the blood of the bird that was slaughtered over fresh water. He is then to sprinkle the blood 7 times on one who is cleansed from the skin disease. He is pronounced unclean and released a live bird over the open countryside. The one who is to be cleansed must wash his clothes, shave off all his hair, and bathe in water. He is clean. Afterward, he may enter the camp, but must remain outside the tent for 7 days. He is to shave off all his hair on the seventh day, his head, his beard, his eyebrows, and the rest of his hair. He is to wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. He is clean. On the eighth day, he must take 2 unblemished male lambs, an unblemished year-old ewe lamb, a grain offering of 6 quarts of fine flour mixed with olive oil, and 1/3 of a quart of olive oil. The priest who performs the cleansing will place the person who is to be cleansed, together with these offerings, before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest is to take 1 male lamb and it as presented as a guilt offering, along with 1/3 quart of olive oil, and he will present them as a presentation offering before the Lord. He is to slaughter the male lamb at the place in the sanctuary area where the sin offering and burnt offerings are slaughtered. For like the sin offering, the guilt offering belongs to the priest. It is especially holy. The priest is to take some of the blood from the guilt offering and put it on the lobe of the right ear of one to be cleansed, on the thumb of the right hand, and the big toe of the right foot. Then the priest will take some of the 1/3 quart olive oil and pour it into the left palm. The priest will dip his right finger into the olive oil with his left palm and sprinkle some of the oil with his finger 7 times before the Lord. From the oil remaining in the palm, the priest will put some of the lobe of the right ear of the one to be cleansed on the thumb of his right hand, and the one of the big toe and his right foot on top of the blood of the guilt offering. What is left in the oil that the priest's palm he is to put on his head of the one to be cleansed. In this way, the priest will make atonement for him before the Lord. The priest is to sacrifice the sin offering, make an atonement for the one to be cleansed from his uncleanness. Afterward, he will slaughter for the burnt offering. The priest is to offer the burnt offering and the grain offering on the altar. The priest will make an atonement for him, and will not be clean. But if he is poor and cannot afford these, to take 1 male lamb for a guilt offering to be presented in order to make atonement for him, along with 2 quarts of fine flour mixed with olive oil for a grain offering, 1/3 quart olive oil, and 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, whatever can be afforded. One to be a sin offering, the other to be a burnt offering. On the 8th day is to bring these things for cleansing to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting before the Lord. The priest will take the male lamb for the guilt offering and the 1/3 of quart of olive oil, and present them as a presentation offering before the Lord. After he slaughters the male lamb for the guilt offering, the priest is to take some of the blood of the guilt offering and put it on the right earlobe of his right hand and on the big toe of his right foot. Then the priest will pour some of the oil into his left palm with his right finger. The priest will sprinkle some of the oil in his left palm 7 times before the Lord. The priest will also put some of the oil in his palm on the right earlobe of the one to be cleansed, on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot, on the same place as the blood of the guilt offering. What is left of the oil in the priest's palms will be put on the head of the one to be cleansed, to make an atonement for him before the Lord. He is then to sacrifice one type of what he can afford, either turtle doves or young pigeons, as a sin offering, and others as a burnt offering, sacrificing what he can afford with the grain offering. In this way, the priest will make an atonement for the Lord and one to be cleansed. This is a law for someone who has a skin disease and cannot afford the cost of cleaning. Cleaning of contaminated objects. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. When you enter the land of Canaan that I am giving you as a possession, I place a mildew contamination in the house of the land that you possess. The owner of the house is to come and tell the priest something like mildew contamination has appeared in my house. The priest must order them to clear the house before he enters to examine contaminations. And the walls of the house consist of indentations that appear beneath the surface of the wall. The priest is to go outside the house to its doorway and quarantine the house for 7 days. The priest is to return on the seventh day and examine it. If the contamination has spread on the walls of the house, the priest must order that the stones of the contamination be pulled out and thrown into an unclean place outside the city. He is to have the inside of the house completely scratched and have the plaster that is scraped off dumped into the unclean place outside the city. Then they are to take different stones to replace the former ones and take additional plaster to replaster the house. If the contamination reappears in the house after the stones have been pulled off and the house has been scrapped and replastered, the priest is to come and examine it. If the contamination is spread in the house, it is a harmful mildew. The house is unclean. It must be torn down with its stones, its beams, and all its plaster, and taken outside the city to an unclean place. Whoever enters the house during any of the days the priest quarantines it will be unclean until evening. Whoever lies down in the house is to wash his clothes, and whoever eats in it to wash his clothes. But when the priest comes and examines it, and the contamination is not spread in the house after it's replastered, he is pronounced the house clean because the contamination has disappeared. He is to take 2 birds, cedar wood, scarlet yarn, and hyssop to purify the house. And he is to slaughter one of the birds over a clay pot containing fresh water. He will take the cedar wood, the hyssop, the scarlet yarn, and the live bird, dip them in the blood of the slaughtered bird, purify the house of the blood of the bird outside the city. In this way, he'll make an atonement for the house, and it will be clean. This is the law for any skin disease or mildew, or a scaly outbreak from mildew in clothing or on a house, and for swelling, scab, or spot, to determine when something is unclean or clean. This is the law regarding skin disease and mildew. Bodily discharges. The Lord spoke to Moses and Aaron. Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when any man has a discharge from the member, he is unclean. This uncleanliness of his discharge, whether the member. Oh wait, this is chapter 15. I'm not sure if I said that. Whether the member's secretary the discharge or retains it, he is unclean. All the days that the member's secretary does or retains anything because of the discharge, he is unclean. Any bed the man with the discharge lies on will be unclean. Any furniture he sits on will be unclean. Anyone who touches his bed to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Whoever sits on the furniture that the man with the discharge is sitting on is washed his clothes and bathed with water, and remain unclean until evening. Whoever touches the body of a man with the discharge to wash his clothes and bathe with water, remain clean until evening. If the man of the discharge spits on anyone who is clean, he is to wash his clothes and bathe in water, and he will remain clean till evening. Any saddle the man of discharge rides on is unclean. Whoever touches anything that is under him will be unclean till evening. Whoever carries such things is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and remain unclean till evening. If the man with the discharge touches anyone without first rinsing his hands in water, the person who was touched is to wash his clothes and bathe in water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Any clay pot that the man with the discharge touches must be broken, while any wooden utensils is to be rinsed with water. When the man's discharge has been cured of it, he is to count 7 days for his cleansing, wash his clothes, and bathe his body in fresh water. He will be clean. He must take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons on the 8th day, come before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting, and give it to the priest. The priest is to sacrifice them, one as a sin offering, the other as a burnt offering. In this way, the priest will make an atonement for him before the Lord because of his discharge. When a man has an emission of semen, he is to bathe himself completely with water and remain unclean until evening. Any clothing or leather on which there is an emission of semen is to be washed with water. and it will remain unclean till evening. If a man sleeps with a woman and has mentioned a son, both of them are to bathe in water, and it will remain unclean till evening. When a woman has discharge and it consists of blood from her body, she'll be unclean because of her menstruation for 7 days. Everyone who touches her will be unclean until evening. Anything she lies on during her menstruation will become unclean, and anything she sits on will become unclean. Everyone who touches her bed is to wash his clothes and bathe with water, and he will remain unclean until evening. Everyone who touches any furniture she was sitting on is washed his clothes and bathed with water, and he will remain clean until evening. If discharges on the bed or the furniture she was sitting on, when he touches it, he will be unclean until evening. If a man sleeps with her, and blood from her menstruation gets on him, he will be unclean for 7 days, and every bed he lies on will become unclean. If a woman has a discharge of her blood for many days, though it is not the time of her menstruation, or she has discharge beyond her period, she will be unclean for all the days of her unclean discharge, as she is during the days of her menstruation. Any bed she lies on during the days of her discharge will be like the bed during the menstruation and puberty. Any furniture she sits on will be unclean, as in her menstrual period. Anyone who touches them will be unclean. He must wash his clothes and bathe in water, and remain unclean until evening. When she is cured of her discharge, she is to count she is to count 7 days, and after that she will be clean. On the 8th day she must take 2 turtle doves or 2 young pigeons, and bring them to the priest at the entrance of the tent of meeting. The priest is to sacrifice one as a sin offering, the other as a burnt offering. In this way the priest will make an atonement for her before the Lord because of her unclean discharge. You must keep the Israelites from their uncleanliness, so they do not die by defiling my tabernacle that is among them. This is the law for someone with a discharge, a man who is remission of semen becoming unclean by a woman in her menstrual period. Anyone who has discharge, whether male or female, man who sleeps with a woman is unclean. The Day of Atonement, chapter 16. The Lord spoke to Moses after death the 2 of Aaron's sons when they approached the presence of the Lord and died. The Lord said to Moses, "Tell your brother Aaron that he may not come, whether he wants into the holy place behind the curtain in front of the mercy seat on the ark, or else he will die, because I will appear in a cloud above the mercy seat." Aaron is to enter the most holy place in this way, with a young bull for a sin offering and a ram for a burnt offering. He is to wear a holy linen tunic, and a linen undergarment are to be on his body. He is to tie a linen sash around him and wrap his head with a linen turban. These are holy garments. He must bathe his body with water before he wears them. He is to take from the Israelite community 2 male goats for a sin offering and 1 ram for a burnt offering. Aaron will present the bull for a sin offering and make an atonement for himself and the household. Next, he'll take 2 goats and place them before the Lord at the entrance of the tent of meeting. After Aaron cast lots for the 2 goats, one lot for the Lord, and the other for an inhabitable place. He is to present the goat chosen by lot for the Lord and sacrifice it as a sin offering. That the goat chosen by lot for an uninhabited place is to be presented alive before the Lord, and we can atonement with it by sending it into the wilderness for an uninhabited place. When Aaron presents the bull for his sin offering, he makes atonement for himself and his household. He will slaughter the bull of his sin offering. Then he is to take a fire pan full of blazing coals from the altar before the Lord, and 2 handfuls of finely ground fragrant incense, and bring them inside the curtain. He is to put the incense on the fire before the Lord, so that the cloud of incense covers the mercy seat that is over the testimony, or else he will die. He is to take some of the bull's blood and sprinkle it with his finger against the east side of the mercy seat. Then he'll sprinkle some of the blood with his fingers before the mercy seat 7 times. When he slaughters a male goat for the people's sin offering and brings his blood inside the curtain, he will do the same with blood as he did with the bull's blood. He is to sprinkle it against the mercy seat and in front of it. He will make an atonement for the most holy place in this way for all their sins, because of Israelite impurities and rebellious acts. He will do the same for the tent of meeting that remains among them, because it is surrounded by their impurities. No one may be in the tent of meeting from the time he enters to make an atonement in the most holy place until he leaves, after he has made an atonement for himself. His house has made an atonement for himself, and the house after he has made an atonement for himself, his household, the whole assembly of Israel. Then he'll he'll go out to the altar that he has made before the Lord, and will make an atonement for it. He has to take some of the bull's blood and some of the goat's blood, and put it on the horns of all sides of the altar. He is to sprinkle some of the blood on it with his fingers 7 times to cleanse it and set it apart from the Israelite impurities. When he has finished making atonement for the most holy place, the tent meeting, and the altar, he was to present the live male goat. Aaron will lay both his hands on the goat and both his hands on the head of the live goat and confess over all the Israelite iniquities and rebellious acts, all their sins. He is to put it on the goat's head and send it away to the wilderness by a man appointed for the task. The goat will carry all their iniquities to a desolate land, and the man will release it there. Then Aaron is to enter the tent of meeting, take on the linen garments he wore when he entered the most holy place, and leave them there. He will bathe his body in water in a holy place and put on his clothes. Then he must go out and sacrifice his burnt offering and the people's burnt offering. He will make an atonement for himself and for the people. He is to burn the fat of the sin offering on the altar. The man who released the goat for not having a place to wash his clothes and bathe his body in water. Afterward, he may re-enter the camp. The bull for the sin offering, and the goat for the sin offering, whose blood was brought into the most holy place to make an atonement, must be brought outside the camp, their hide fleshed and waist burned. The one who burns them is to wash his clothes and bathe himself with water. Afterward, he may re-enter the camp. This is to be a permanent statute for you. In the 7th month, on the 10th day of the month, you are to practice self-denial and no work, both the native and the alien who reside among you. Atonement will be made for you on this day to cleanse you, and you will be clean from all your sins before the Lord. It is Sabbath on complete rest for you, and you must practice self-denial. It is a permanent statute. The priest who anointed and ordained to serve as high priest in place of his father make an atonement. You put on the linen garments, the holy garments, and make an atonement for the most holy place. You make an atonement for the tent of meeting, and the altar will make an atonement for the priest and all the people of the assembly. This is to be a permanent statute for you, to make an atonement for the Israelites once a year because of all their sins. And this was done, as the Lord commanded Moses. That was a lot. Like almost 30 minutes of just reading. Closest I ever got to 30 minutes was after summarizing a really long thing, not just reading it. But like it just starts out talking about all the stuff you do for skin disease, and then contaminated fabrics, and how to cleanse it, and then cleansing of the contaminated objects and bodily discharges, and then the Day of Atonement. And so it's like there's really not much to summarize, but there's a lot to get through, like a lot of just words to read. But yeah, that's all for today. This light kind of eyes look very blue in this, but they're brown. But yeah, that's all for today. Not sure what else to say. I'm trying to get this ready and at the same time. But no matter what, if you're having a bad day or whatever, remember God really loves you. Goodbye.